That's a good thing. That means you're doing your job. And he told us, and he told the public audience, that thanks to our work, he didn't feel so alone anymore. But as I said, this story is still unwritten. The challenge before him and his colleagues in Parliament, in fact, the challenge before all Armenians, is to build trust across opposition political boundaries. And I appreciate that's very hard to do. But the challenge is to build trust and to complete the story, to tell the people of Armenia what happened on the night of March 1st, 2nd. And if you tell the people of Armenia what happened, you can help heal the nation and move forward. That is what 3 people from the United States who don't really know Armenia came to tell our new friends in Armenia. We hope it's helpful. We hope our own experience can help them, help Armenia heal and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask Mike, is there anything you'd like to add about the trip to Armenia?
Maybe just a couple of words. I don't have a lot to add to what Chris said. I think that, as he pointed out, we did not have deep knowledge of Armenia, its culture, its history, and there are certainly great disadvantages in that. There are some advantages, though, when you come to, you have a new experience like that, and that is you can approach it with fresh eyes, and you can really see some contrast between that system and your own system. Armenia really is a fledgling democracy, and you consider kind of the mature institutions that we have here, and it kind of teaches you not to take them for granted, I think. A couple of things that resonated with me, and I completely agree with Chris, that Armenia is making some strides towards developing its democracy and strengthening it. We were in Armenia at the invitation of the Parliamentary Commission, but also with the support of the United States Department of State and the United States Agency for International Development. And our government has a deep interest in promoting democracy in that region, and it's very much a worthy cause. I was struck as just a newcomer out there by some of the really, I think, perceptive questions that we got from young people, for example. We met with a group of Armenian law students, and that was really a moving experience. And our colleague, John Farmer, who from the 9/11 Commission and is a former Attorney General of the state of New Jersey, gave them a talk, and I think that talk resonated with them. But some of the questions that we received from them, some of the young people asked, for example, did your commission, the 9/11 Commission, have to put anybody in a witness protection program, for example, and questions like that. And it indicated that there was concern, for example, given events in Armenia, that people might not come forward with information. Maybe they were concerned about retribution or intimidation still. And I think very much by the way, we did not put any witnesses in the witness protection program for the 9/11 Commission. We didn't have to here. But people do have some of those kinds of concerns. So the situation is somewhat different, and you have to take that, I think, under consideration. And people are concerned about that. One of the things that I saw, I have a background in United States intelligence, a lot of years in that. So I'm interested in the intelligence services of Armenia and what they're evolving into. I think it's fair to say you still see the police and the intelligence services very much as the arm of the executive in Armenia, and less so do they perceive themselves as the arm of the people, I think. And I think that's a transformation that needs to take place. Just one quick anecdote. I gave a talk while I was there. I was invited to give a talk to the intelligence service, and I gave a talk in what was formerly the headquarters of the KGB in Yerevan. And there was a large group, and I talked about the lessons of the 9/11 Commission. Afterwards, the director of the service came up to me and handed me a few sort of tokens of appreciation, one of which was kind of a seal of the service itself. And he jokingly said to me, well, if you have to double park your car, just leave this on the dashboard, because if anybody sees it, no one's going to mess with you. And I think there was a little bit of truth to that, actually, still, this sort of sense that people have that some of these organizations are not so much serving them in a democratic way, but are wielded by the executives and so on. So I just wanted to make a couple of those points, and you have to kind of look at that whole picture, but I do think strides are being made. One of the things I liked in particular about this visit to this law school was the instructors told us that formerly law students in Armenia essentially sort of memorized laws and kind of the corpus of laws and, you know, sort of accepted them. But now they're even trying new methods of teaching. It's more the Socratic method and the method employed in the United States and in Western schools, in which, you know, the students are basically bringing independent critical thinking as they study law and are sort of challenging things and looking at the reasons underlying why certain laws exist. And I think that's a very significant thing and is going to be very important as sort of the roots of democracy get stronger in Armenia.
Thank you. Lizzie, can I ask you to turn on the lights now? I don't know if it's the top button that you hit. So, more lights will go on instead of off. Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving us more of kind of the human side of things. And so we've had wonderful presentations from 3 people. So now I'll open it up to you all to ask your questions. Please introduce yourself and then tell us which panelist your question is for. Yes?
My name is Mark Wilson. I'm here in the school of Master's Degree, and I had a question for Dr. Kochikian. I know that directly after the elections, the opposition in Armenia had a lot of criticism from international election observers, commissions saying that they're looking the other way or not very professional. Did your research look into that at all?
Yeah, the report does talk about that as well. But honestly, again, you have 1,923 polling stations, and you had about 300 observers. Of course, most of the focus would be on Yerevan and some of the other regions. But even if they're mobile, they're not going to cover everything. This reminds me that is one of the major problems in terms of how can you make sure that the standards are respected. Back in about 4 years ago, when there were a second term of President Kocharyan, Serge Sarkisian, the current president, was the campaign manager of Kocharyan. And at that time, the OSCE started making, a criticism saying that, the elections were not fair and free. And there were CIS, Commonwealth of Independent States monitors as well, who said, yeah, there were violations, but, it's not that bad. And the statement that came up after that, Serge Sarkisian, I remember that clearly. He said, well, the CIS report, the CIS comments occurred mostly because they understand how we do business or how politics is conducted. OSCE does not know our political culture, but there is no culture here. I mean, if there's a violation, if there's a fraud, it's fraud. It's not a matter of, unless it's part of the culture that 2 out of 10 votes has to be, blank vote or has to be, stuffed ballot. But that was part of the report, and at the same time, the opposition, Der Bedrosian actually, this was one of the interesting things when I was talking about their realignment of policy. Der Bedrosian criticized the West as being immoral and not supporting, the opposition, which also was part of the overall rhetoric or overall sort of talk in Armenia, was that this was a colorful revolution in the making. But our report, or our research at least, and my personal research and talks with people, it was nothing but. There was no attempt by any Western power, that's what the conspiracy theorists talk about, to approach Der Bedrosian. On the contrary, Serge Sarkisian was preferred. Mostly, and this, I know I'm going on a tangent, but I think this is one of the things I keep